Once you're happy with your Scruffiti, the next stage really is to start to think about turning your initial thoughts from your Scruffiti and the sketched ideas into physical products. Now, you can do this in a lot of ways. You can add colour, you can add texture, you can add annotation, you can speak to your clients about the sketches. There's no shame in getting people's opinions of potential shapes before you actually take the shape any further, because as with the Scruffiti, some of the things that you've already identified won't be taken forward. Some people like to take them into 3D models. Some people like to take them into CAD. And again, there's no right or wrong way of doing it. It's whatever naturally occurs to you. Personally speaking, I like to start by thinking about the shape as a potential product, and I might start to think, well, what is it for? How does it work? Are there any openings? Are there any doors? You know, what am I going to do with this shape? And I tend to start by filling in some details. For example, this shape here that I've drawn, I might start to think of it as a 3D shape with some kind of opening here, and I'm just drawing that in there. I might start to try and draw out where that base would be in there. That sort of curves around there because, again, the outside of the shape is curved. What I might then think about is it just something which is an opening? Has it got shelves? How does that opening work? Is it, for example, a curved door? So what I might do is draw a curved door, yeah. And again, I'm trying to keep it very fluid, not worry about what they look like, but keep it 3D. One of the things you can think about here is, again, just put a couple of squiggles to annotate hinges, and I also like to put a little bit of a guide to show how that might work. Interestingly enough, if you wanted to, what you could do is you could actually have a little bit of an arrow which shows an alternative view. What I'm going to do again is I'm just going to copy this idea here and do a part sketch, not anything that looks fantastic, but you could do something which shows that you have maybe a sliding door or a lift-up door or anything really, something that possibly goes on the inside and circles round. So you can do that there, and then you might draw an arrow to show how these would slide. Something like laser cut air apply. And again, just to remind you of this, what you might write here is this could be made from laser cut ply to allow it to bend. Just to remind yourself there, you might actually draw a little shape there to show what you're thinking there, and anybody who's done any laser cut ply will know that it looks a little bit like this, and what you're making is a live hinge. Keep it 3D and so on and so forth, and it's just adding to the information so that when you look back at it you'll be able to see and remind yourself of what you've thought. Once you've started to add those details, again, you know, and you can do that with any of the Scruffiti drawings that you've come up with so far, I think it's a good idea to start to add a little bit of colour, just to pick out the product. And depending on how confident you feel, you might want to just think about colouring in the shape. You might want to think about colouring around the shape. Personally speaking, I like to use a variety of techniques, and a really simple one is using coloured pencils or even coloured pens or markers on the outside. And again, I hate to say it, but drawing straight lines along the sort of direction of the shape, and you can see there that picks that out quite nicely. Just something I've forgotten on that drawing is to draw in the inside there. Okay, and don't be afraid to do a little bit of sort of detail to pick that out. We're not too worried about what it looks like at the moment, but you can see there that starts to translate into a shape. If you want to, if you prefer, get yourself a nice light felt tip and show a little bit of detail on the inside. Not too much, I'm not worried about what the shape looks like. What I am doing is picking out that shape with a little bit of colour just to give it a bit of definition, and I might do that on the other one. Very random, very scruffy at this stage. Obviously later on what we might do is add to this and make that a little bit neater. You could use the thick and thin lines technique, or what I call the crawly spider, where you go round shapes again with a bit of a thicker line and pick out the shape on the outside. Those will be thick lines, so something like this. I would probably use a little bit of a thicker pen if I had one to hand, and leave the inner lines as thin. It just makes the shape bounce a little bit forward. Something like that. Once you're happy with all the shapes that you've done, again, as we said already, I'm going to start adding a little bit of annotation. Don't be afraid to write the obvious. For example, we have an arrow here. What I might do is door, which swings open. Again, identify the two hinges. What you might want to think about also is any issues that you've thought about already. For example, because this is a curved shape, adding hinges to a curved shape might be quite tricky. So I'm going to just write, as this shape is curved, there might be some issues with hinges. And what I might do is just say reinforce. So that might lead you to think about the structure of the design, thinking about having an extra strut or piece of timber or piece of material to just reinforce those hinges, because on a piece of flexible plywood or something that would stretch around there like fabric, you wouldn't have enough strength to be able to draw that in. Again, while we're talking about materials, we could talk about possible materials. This could be, resistant plywood. You could have the skin of this. It could be fabric stretched over a frame. It could be Aeroply. What I'm doing is I'm keeping my ideas open. I'm not narrowing down or getting blinkered. I'm trying to keep my ideas free. I'm trying not to worry about what it looks like, and I'm trying to make sure that when I come back to this, when I've started to draw some better quality ideas, that all the options are still available. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just add to this and just fill it in. What I will then do is talk to a possible user and or my client and get them to possibly add in some more notes, see what they think. It might be that they hate the idea, but don't be afraid to write that down and why they hate it or why they don't think it's suitable as a potential product for your brief.